there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome back to the Being Human Hidden Depths podcast that's looked after by Collaboration Global. The community, as the name suggests, is all about collaborating on a global scale for the benefit of the individual as well as the group. There are so many ways to look at it, but we attract an awful lot of people who have different viewpoints, come from different worlds, come from different mindsets, but they all have the same heart set. And they all want to help someone, and they're all out to say, what can I do? How can I help? And one of the people that have recently joined us is the wonderful Maria Azcona, as she joins us today. Welcome, Maria.
Yes, thank you for having me today.
You're very welcome. For those of you that are watching this on our YouTube channel and you can see the video, you can see it. Maria's called Maria Risk Reports. So we'll find out more about risk reports in a little while.
I changed that.
Yeah, it's funny what we have on our names, isn't it? Because we always change it when we have our Collaboration Global meetings as well. We put CG in front so all of our guests know which one's a member. So you've only recently come to Collaboration Global, but you've been around for quite a while, even, dare I say, before pandemic days.
Yes,
EP days. I think it was probably, if I'm not mistaken, our very last live meeting in Hertford.
It was either, I think it was the beginning of March 2020. And I've been invited by somebody else who was due to go later on. I don't know whether she ever made it, admittedly. And so I turned up, and it was just a little bit of an eye-opener.
What was your first impressions? Do you remember what your first impressions were?
First impressions, there was already a feeling of a kind of impending doom, because I remember looking out of the window of the hotel, of the room we were in, and seeing businesses already starting to close.
Yeah.
So that was, but the feeling in the room was one of honesty, and it's difficult to describe because it really was a feeling. It was a feeling of honesty, and it wasn't about sort of, I'm here to sell or I want to buy. It wasn't about that. It was about sort of learning what goes on sort of up here and behind you. Almost like, looking over somebody's shoulder to see what trail they've left behind in order to see where they can, which way they're heading. And then the pandemic hit, and I very nearly joined then, but things were starting to happen worldwide, and I thought, you know what, it's not something I could afford either in time or money at that point. So it was going to have to wait, but I never quite forgot Collaboration Global, and I never forgot you or the people that were there that day. And I think it may have been Sue Plumtree who may have given a talk that day. I'm not 100% sure, but when I saw her again, I thought, I'm sure it was you. But
yeah, I can't remember offhand, but we always say that when timing is right, and it's I believe very much not so much fate and things are by accident, but there's no such thing as coincidence, and that you were there at the right time at the right place, but it wasn't the right time for you to take action at that point. And you kind of bubbled along, being in touch sort of remotely and being aware of what we were doing. And then you popped back up again. I was like, oh, hello. And I thought, I know her from somewhere. I feel so familiar. And then when you said I was at the last meeting, it's like, oh, there you go. That's it.
Oh, I found your book. That was the other thing. I found your book because I was clearing, sort of moving my office around, and I was in the process of closing down a previous email address, which you were still sending little bits to. And so I forwarded everything to my new email and read parts of the book, read that, and thought, yes, now I realise, now I get it.
Yeah.
Or now I'm starting to get it, should I say.
It's interesting. We've had people join us who don't get it for a good 6 months, but they just love the energy and they're like, I don't know why I'm here, but it seems really nice, and I like it. Because a lot of people come expecting networking. And whilst networking happens naturally and we're not going to stop people doing business together, there is no, here's my business card and this is my pitch and these are the people I'm looking for. We don't do any of that, because now, I don't know about you, but being part of the community, that feels so last century, sort of last. I've been very, very involved in networking over the years. And to go into a room now, which I did ironically by accident rather than design last Saturday on a virtual meeting, and they had speed networking, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Don't make me do that. And it just took me back to those days. It's like, oh, this is harsh.
The other thing is that I think that what's happening, the way that people's mindset is changing. So not just a cleaner, greener way of working in terms of the of greenhouse gases and the whole green, the whole footprint, the green footprint. It's not just about that. It's also, I've always been very ethical in the way I work, and fair and honest and true. Sometimes to my detriment, where people have said, oh no, you shouldn't have declared that. Yes, but it was the right thing to do, you know. And oh, well, you can pay people a lot. Yes, I know I can, but it's the right thing to do, to pay them what I think is fair, which is, you know, might be above and beyond. But that's what I found had changed over the course of the last year. And I think that, you know, again, coming across your book kind of made me realise that there were other like-minded people around.
Yeah, and the pandemic has shown me as well, people are getting fed up with the old way of doing things. They are getting fed up with the world that we live in isn't working. It's like, how many more times have we got to tell people it's broken, and we are going to self-combust unless we take, you know, real radical action. And although everyone goes, oh yes, well, with the pandemic, we didn't drive anywhere and we didn't get on aeroplanes, so obviously everything's a lot better now, isn't it? Well, I watched the Greta Thunberg interview, the documentary on TV recently. And according to that, it only made 17% difference to the carbon output that was going on. Only 17%. It's like a blip in the ocean. We have to take radical action in order to make that difference. And we were talking about this the other day at one of our Collaboration Global meetings. And it's like, what can we do as individuals? We have to take responsibility. It's all very well to go, oh no, it's all those corporates out there, all those people that are creating the plastic and not getting rid of it and dumping stuff in rivers. And well, yeah, that's bad. That is very bad. But we can petition about that, but we have to look at us as individuals. So do you still go and get your coffee from Starbucks and use a reusable cup of coffee, coffee cup? Well, to be honest, I don't understand the joy of walking along the street drinking coffee. I'd rather sit down with a cup and a saucer, thank you very much, and then someone can wash it up for me. So it's like, how do we view our world? What is convenient and what is just wasteful? Mm-hmm. So you got me on my little soapbox now, but it just gets so frustrating that where we are, that we can all take radical responsibility. And I think through the pandemic, we have seen globally, we are all together in this. We are all connected. And if these people don't get vaccinated, then these people are going to suffer. If we don't make the money available, then it's all going to come back and bite us if we're not careful. So I think Joe Public, the people that kept all of the countries running, the delivery drivers, the supermarket workers, the dustbin
Amazing
men,
people.
the nurses, the carers, the doctors, all of these people, they're the ones that should be paid an absolute fortune, not these footballers running around trying to get in a super league. That's another soapbox I'd get on. It just, as my mother would said, it's 11 men running around chasing a bit of leather. Why should it cost so much money? For the everyday man who enjoys that, man and woman who enjoys that, it should be 50p to go through the turnstiles and watch a game rather than this ludicrous amount of money that it does. And we would all still have enough. And that's the same potential for everything in the world. So I'm sure you've come across that feeling that within our community, we're all kind of a like mind. Sometimes it's really hard to get an argumentative confrontational discussion going when everyone's going, no, I agree. I agree.
I do agree.
Like-minded. So, okay, I've digressed slightly, my darling. Let's come back to you and think about who you are now and who you are being, which is a very big part that we see. We know bits and pieces of what you do, and we'll come to what you do a bit later. But how did you become the person we see in front of us today? What was your journey like? More importantly, 8-year-old Maria, what was your genius then? What did you love doing? If you could choose at 8 years of age, what do you think your career would have been? How would you have made a difference to this world?
Age date, I was goofy. I wasn't wearing spectacles then, but I was the joker. I think throughout my life, I've always been the joker. I've always been the chatty one. I've always been the person who, and bearing in mind, so my family are Spanish from Spain. So when I was 8, it was still pretty much the whole fascist Franco thing. We lived in England, but we would go over to Spain for every single holiday, 8 weeks at a time. And I would go out and I would talk to the homeless guy down the road. I would talk to the council leader, well, the person in charge in the council. I would then go and talk to my grandmother's friend who was in her 90s, who everyone, it's not that they were ignoring her, it's just that, she's in her 90s, but to me she was like really exciting because she had all these stories.
Yes.
And I would talk to the other goofy kid that didn't have many friends, and bring him in to the group of friends that we had and family and things. So that's always been the kind of person I am. So I think I'm probably, I have very often asked friends who would otherwise have been alone, or couples who would have been alone, to join us for Christmas Day and Christmas Eve, which is a big thing for our family. And I don't think it surprises anybody in my family anymore that is what I do and how I am. So it's like, what are they doing here? And it's, they would have been by themselves. Or I want them to see what being in a large family is like, because they've never had that opportunity. And it's things like that. So that's 8 years old. 8-year-old me has always been, so I've grown up with that. If I were, so 8 years old, my grandparents took us to a toy shop in Spain and said, choose anything you want. And at the time, sort of, my sister chose, in Spain there was a doll called Nancy, who, really beautiful long hair and really trendy, and Bay City roller style trousers with a big M on her t-shirt.
You're aging yourself.
Stunningly beautiful. So she chose Nancy, and I didn't relate to Nancy in any way, shape or form. Mm-hmm. So I chose a doll called Risi, R-I-S-I. Now, if you Google Risi, she has got wild hair and really goofy teeth and a grin that is like a little bit scary.
Manic.
Long legs and so that's 8-year-old me. So I saw myself as the misfit, the person that didn't quite fit in. But and my sister has always been that, you know, I have always viewed my sister Gloria as Nancy. She is stunningly beautiful. She's amazing. Her career is just like wow. I have strived throughout my life in many respects to have my sister's kind of calmness and this sense of decorum. She's brilliant. And strangely enough, at some point, I'm sure she's tried to be a little bit more like
I wouldn't be
like me.
Yes, we always want what we haven't got, don't we? You know, if you've got curly hair, you want straight, and vice versa. It's interesting that two siblings were so different to each other, because normally there'd be a little bit of both of you in there.
But as we've grown up, you know, now we look like twins, which is very bizarre. And you know, I have been known to pick up her phone when her husband has called, and he's like, "Hello, gorgeous, how are you doing today?" And I'm like, "No, Duncan, you know, it's not your wife, you know." And it's very funny. So,
sound alike. Are you? Who's the eldest?
Gloria. She's the oldest. Yeah, she's my superhero sister, and then my brother. He's my superhero brother.
Lovely. So, and how do they describe you?
Nuts.
Probably a good thing.
Probably as the risk taker, the person who, you know, the mad auntie, I suppose. Not in a bad way, but if, you know, if I think, I don't want to fit into the normal box. I don't think I ever have done. And we're all unique, but I think my uniqueness to me is the fact that I still talk to everybody, and I don't see barriers of class. I respect people for being this living, working mass of brain cells, arms, legs, and skin, and bones, and muscles, and everything else in between. So that's how I view people. They're, you know, we're all born the same, and we're all going to die the same.
Yeah, no matter what happens in between, or how much, you know, stuff you accumulate, this thing called money that everyone seems to need. We all have the same heart. We all have the same fears of some sort. Not necessarily the same fear, but we all have fears, and it's so true. And I can just imagine you as that 8-year-old going and talking to people and having it. So it's very similar to me, actually. It's interesting because my kids, when we go out, it's like, oh God, she's talking to someone again. Can we just get her away from people? And I absolutely love it, talking to someone. And when you find out that they're from a different walk of life to you, and they've experienced life in a different way, I'm like fascinated. Oh, tell me more. It'd just be absolutely amazing. One of my best friends, and she calls me her best friend as well, she has just turned 86, and we've known each other for about 30 years. And she's terribly awfully, you know, she speaks beautifully. She was born in India and travelled to Jordan, and Daddy was in the army, and hubby was a scientist, and totally different walk of life, totally different. And yet we both love people, and we connected. And she was fascinated by my history of a you know, very poor family in the East End of London and how we grew up. And I'm fascinated by her hardship story of growing up in World War II and being evacuated, and having, at the age of, I think, 5, she was sent off to a boarding school to be evacuated. And her brother was 3, and she had to look after her brother. Can you imagine that 5-year-old, you know, looking after a 3-year-old? So yeah, I'm fascinated by people's stories and how they come out the other end, this sausage machine of life. Because considering generally we have the same experience, don't we? We grow up, we go to school, we come out, we either go to do further education or university, or we go and get a job. And you would think we'd all more or less be the same. But the breadth and depth of humanity is enormous. And I know you've had your fair share of hardships along the way. And one thing that struck me about you is, if I were in your place when your children were 2 and 3 and you ended up being a single mum, my brain immediately goes, I don't think I could have done that. And yet I get the impression from you that it made you, either you were very strong in the first place, or it made you the strong woman that we see before us now. How do you view it now when you look back at that?
I think, my boys have always and will always come first.
Quite right.
I think being in a relationship beforehand, when for 8 years before they were born, and well, when before he left, I think being in that relationship where I saw myself go from a strong, sort of vibrant person, and I was whittled down. That's the only way I can describe it, to somebody that was really quite scared to get it wrong, to get anything wrong.
Yeah, wow.
To burn the fish, or to hang the towel in the wrong, to hang the wrong towel on the wrong thing. So and it was so gradual that I think when the moment came when he left, I think it was, although it was the most physically painful thing in the world, it's a feeling I've never had since, and I really don't want ever again. I wouldn't want anyone to go through it. But it was also this relief, this release of having the handcuffs taken off.
Oof, yeah.
And then I know that I didn't grieve the loss of that relationship for, oh crikey, it was a good 2 years, because I was there for my boys, and I in a way I felt very alone from the moment they were born. Their dad, incredibly hardworking, an incredibly successful businessman, but emotionally not there for me, and emotionally not there for, so therefore not there for them. And also, I think, I was allowed to start to bring the boys up very much by myself anyway, even though he was there. Right. And when I spoke Spanish to them, so then they would be bilingual like myself. And they grew up with this kind of, my family, even though they had, to a point, I'd alienated them, or almost kept them at arm's length, because I didn't want them to see what was really going on in my life before then. They were still the most supportive people, and my brother and his wife and my sister, and actually she didn't know her husband then, but just incredibly supportive. And I think there's a poem which somebody gave to me about getting up in the morning because to feed your children, and I had it written down somewhere and I lost it. I would sincerely love to find that again. The other poem that really stuck in my head was the Desiderata. Yes. Which somebody gave to me when I was in my teens, and it never left me. And just having that strength to get up in the morning to do the right thing by your children, and to make sure that there was food on the table. Sometimes we would go foraging, or we'd go to the allotment, to help people out on their allotments, not just so that the boys we could have a day out on the allotment. Whoa, when you're that age and you're like 3 and 4 and 5 years old, a day in the allotment picking strawberries is like, wow. Yeah. And we had to do things that didn't cost money, and we had, and it taught them about sustainability and working on the land. But at the end of the day, whoever we were doing things for would say, oh, take whatever you want. So I'd have a bag of potatoes, I'd have, whatever it was that they were harvesting, and it would see us through. Yeah. But that's it was a tough time, but it certainly shaped a lot of who I am today.
Well, it shows your ingenuity and your initiative, because you're kind of looking around going, okay, what's the win-win-win here? What's going to work for everybody? Win for the allotment people, win for the boys having fun, and a win for me. Yeah. Get to take some food home. That's brilliant. I love that. Was it the poem The Invitation by Mariah Mountain Dreamer?
It's not ringing a bell, but send it to me and I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I've got it in here, because it was a poem that resonated with us a lot, and I know I put it. That was the book you're talking about, isn't it? Making of a Movement,
Yeah.
that you were reading, and I'm sure I've got it in there. I'm just having a quick look and see if it's there, because that is about do you stand in the middle of the fire with me, and will you still get up for the children when they need you in the morning, that kind of
Then it's certainly ringing a bell. Good, brilliant. Then I have your book, so yes, I'll have it in there.
Well, for anyone that's listening, check it out. Araya Mountain Dreamer, and the poem is called The Invitation, and she did give us kind permission to put it in the book. And I wouldn't be surprised if we read it at that meeting that you first came to, because that would have resonated with you, and that's probably why you've sort of hung on and then come back at a later date. I think it's amazing, the stories we hear on these podcasts of people's struggles with life and how it makes them stronger because of it. What lessons would you think that you've learned, or have you taken any of that and given it to your children, that the lessons that you learned that you can look back on?
Oh my God, yes. Something that my granddad used to say is that you fight for people without a voice. So my granddad, he worked for the local government, and even though he was retired, he would still do a lot of pro bono work for people, you know, for people in the village who, you know, some of them were some were illiterate. He had study behind him, and some of the people in the village didn't, and he would help them with documents, with law, whatever it was. And so
one-man CAB by the sounds of it.
Well, yeah. So he used to. So and you know, I used to spend hours and hours and hours with him. I think I may have been his favourite, but don't tell my brother and sister. But no, but we all had different attributes, and I was a cheeky one. And so I would sit upstairs watching him type away in his office. And one of the things that is in my head is always fight for those without a voice, and that is what I think I have given to my children. That's what I think I have given to the boys, and you know, they are the fairest people I know, together with my entire family, but I'm so proud of who they are becoming.
Yeah.
And you know, they put others first, they put their partners first, which is how I think it should be.
Yes.
You know, they saw, even though I kept what happened with their dad, was very sad, and I kept a lot of the real heartaches from them for many, many, many years. And I thought, if they want to know when I think they are old enough to kind of process it, then if they want to, and you know what, the questions did come, and so I was very honest, not horrible and bitchy, and he did this. It wasn't like that. It was about just explaining the facts of what happened. And you know, I hope to this day that you know, my first other half, you know, I know that I see him as a better person anyway, which is great, which is absolutely great. I see him as a better person. He's got a lovely wife. He's got 2 more children. They're really lovely people.
That's nice.
And you know, and I don't have any nastiness towards him, and I don't have any feelings towards him now either. I just don't I let go of that real heartache.
Yeah, it's being able to forgive. And once you forgive, you don't forgive necessarily for the other person, because they might not care whether you forgive them or not, but you forgive them for yourself. And by doing that forgiveness, it's letting it go so that you can move on. So you can surrender to, well, that's what it was then. I'm not that person anymore. I forgive you for everything that went on. You knew not what you did. And now, and you have to take some acknowledgement of, maybe if I was a different person, maybe if I was more empowered, maybe, but you can't live in maybe. You have to move forward. But by forgiving someone, you can then just release yourself from all the angst and upset that went on in those years. And it's a very big thing to do, to be able to forgive someone when you've been through such trauma in those circumstances.
It's difficult, but I could see myself becoming all consumed in that hate for what he'd done. And I didn't want to be, I've never wanted to be defined by a weakness. So I didn't want to be defined by hate. The same way as when I broke the bones of my leg and everything. I didn't want to be defined as a person that was going to walk with a limp for the rest of her life.
Right.
And it's about, I think, not wanting to be defined by something that in my head I perceive as a negative point.
Yeah, I like that.
So whether it's emotional or physical, it doesn't matter. If I see it as a negative point, I don't want that monkey on my shoulder.
It's like sometimes you hear people say, oh yeah, we don't speak to that person anymore in the family because we had a bit of a problem, and we've had an argument, so we don't speak. And it's like, well, just be the grown up, just forgive them, move on, and don't be, because there's always this barrier going on of like, oh no, we don't do this. And it's like,
yes. And do you know what? I suppose, the people that you surround yourself with, the people within my family, we're a very in-depth, we're a very together family. We don't have that, don't talk to them. I have the most wonderful family of my own, and the extended family and second cousins, and I consider family not just people who you are related to by blood, but people who you choose, that if they were born of the same mother, they would have been your sister, for example. Two friends like that, Debs and Nikki, they are my sisters from another sister. But, my people, other people I know, they are family. But because I would have them, because I've got their back, they've got mine, and I would have them at my table every day. And that for me is what family is about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you choose the family. That's what they say, the phrase, isn't it? Your friends are the family you choose, not necessarily the family you get left with. I remember at my wedding, we'd invited one of my friends that I worked with, who was a lady. So I'm getting married at the age of 21. And she was probably 55. And she was a lady from Jamaica, and she looked after me at work because she was an old person's warden in the estate that I used to manage back in the local government days. And so she went straight up to my mum at the wedding, and my mum had no clue who she was. And she said, "Oh, I'm Jill's black mum." And my mum's like, "Excuse me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, kind of like, yeah, I'll take that. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. That means Jenny's my sister and Art is my brother, and I love it." It's just... Yeah. She was amazing woman. But yeah, it's the people that you choose, and we are very blessed, aren't we, when you come to that stage in life and you look back and you go, yeah, I chose well. I chose well.
There's a thing that saying that every path that you have taken has led you to where you are today, and what you choose to do with it is entirely up to you. Yeah, I'm full of sayings, me.
I'll be writing a few of them down. I love this. It's brilliant. Thank you. So let's bring it up to date. You've been the goofy one as a child. You've had, like most of us, a little ups and downs throughout the life. What's your passion now? And what sort of things are you helping people with along the way? Because obviously when people come to Collaboration Global, it is a case of how can I help and what can I do? And I love the fact that people are coming to it with this altruistic feeling of, I'm here to help. What do you need? So what are your kind of gifts and what do you offer? And is this in your day job? Where do you take it from?
One of the things is I see a lot of people who are so, if their brains, their brains are like kind of all, and there's no stopping their thinking, and it's like what my husband calls the wasp syndrome. You go from one thing and it's one thought to another. Yeah. But it's being able to have this clarity of thinking, and one of the things that I love it when I see somebody really struggling with, oh, do you know what, it could be something practical, it could be something mental, it could be an emotion, and they can't, see the wood for the trees. That's a phrase that everyone understands. And I like to be able to sit down with them and say, okay, so talk to me, tell me, what do you see the problem is, and then trying to find ways with them of overcoming, of finding a solution. And it could be something as simple as, do you know what, you are so tired, put your head down for half an hour, have a nap, and then come, and I'll wake you up. Really? Okay. Or it could be a practical thing. So currently, my life is divided into these wonderful pockets. So there's my work, assessing risk assessments. It's that simple. It's that boringly simple. Fire risk assessments and health and safety risk assessments. People's eyes glaze over and they go, okay, there's that. I love it. I think that keeping people safe in any environment is just not just important, and you have to, but I love it. And that's, I think, comes probably from having sort of this little, what I thought was a minor accident that completely changed my life. So I now have plates in my foot and stuff. So there's that. There is two fabulous schools that I'm associated with. One as an enterprise advisor through the Bucks Hill Skills Hub. And that's a Calcutta Academy, where the students are kind of on this journey to find out who they are. And I come in as an employer to help not just the teach and the staff to incorporate work experience into the everyday lessons, but also to just really motivate the children for them to have a voice. So, for example, we started up the Calcutta Academy Student Voice magazine, which is based around careers, but we interviewed for editor, joint editor, reporters. And all of a sudden, there are these students, these young adults who are going, oh my heavens, this is kind of, it's like press room, but for the 21st century, I don't know whether you remember the press room TV series.
No, I know of it. I never actually saw it.
Well, that's kind of what we're kind of recreating in a way. So there's that side, and then on the other side, and seeing the teachers and the dedication and the work that they put into their students is like,
yeah.
And then on the other side, I'm a trustee for a SEND school, so the children have a varying level of abilities. I don't like to call them disabilities, because what I'm seeing from these children is the most amazing kind of people coming out. And and as a trust, and I take these responsibilities like really seriously, because it's not a tick box in my CV.
No.
It's kind of this feeling that what I'm doing now is bringing the next generation up. So do you know what? These are the children, the way I see it, these are the children that are going to be switching off my life support machine. They're going to be finding the cancer cures. They're going to be sorting out my prosthetic limbs. Yeah. They're the ones that are going to be paying out my pension. And they're the ones that are going to lead government.
Yes.
And if we are not there to show them, to give them the ability to have the strength to learn and to do it and to do the right thing and to be good, fair, honest people and to have each other's backs. If we don't do that, then we are failing as a generation.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like that's your mission. I like that.
It might be, actually.
Yeah, it does. It's like sits well on your shoulders. It's like, I'm not having this. Let's do something about it. I remember once going on a course, and there was about 150 people in the room, and they said, "Who's the oldest here?" And this lady put her hand up. She's probably me. She was about 87. And who's the youngest? And you had to be 18 to do the course, but there was an 18-year-old there. He said, I'm just 18. And he stood them opposite ends of the room. So imagine 150 people, and she stood one end and he's the other. and we were talking about the state of the world and the planet and government, politics in general. And he said, I think our generation owes the younger generation an apology. And she said, I want to do that. So she apologized in such a profound way for the way that we have abused and left the earth for him. And you could see he was crying. It was like, it was so emotional. And he just went, thank you. And he said, thank you for the apology. And we will do our best. And it was like, oh, it was just so powerful. And we need people to step up to help these kids. And they are more tuned in, more aware. I mean, look at Greta, for goodness sake, than we ever were at that age. So it's almost like, how can we help them? What can we do? But giving them a voice is always a really good first step, and facilitating their awareness of themselves and of their power. And hopefully within our community, there are several people that are passionate about education. And if they can go and teach them the power of collaboration and how to collaborate, then that will give them more leverage and more tools in their belt in order to go out and do this work that you're talking about. And I think you're absolutely right. We need to transform the way we see our education system. We need to rethink money. We need to start again with politics. I mean, what's going on there? And these kids come up with solutions. It's like, whoa, that's so simple, but it's just so obvious. And why didn't we do it? And there are reasons. Sometimes the reason are the people at the top want to stay at the top. And if they try something different, it means they won't be at the top. So they have a vested interest and they go, no, we're not going to vote that in. And there's all these reasons why. But I think ultimately, again, because of the pandemic, because its time has come, the time is now here for us to actually make a difference. And what you're saying there fills my heart with joy, that there are people like you that are passionate and see things clearly. And I think I wrote down earlier that you have a clarity of thinking. You have a solution-focused mind. You're not looking at the problems. You're going, okay, that's a problem. Great. This might be a solution. Or there's this, or there's this, or there's this. And let's see what we can do about it.
Doesn't mean I have the answers, though.
None of us do. None of us do. And that's the whole thing. There is no right or wrong about life, is there? No. There's this solution. But if somebody is hurting and it's not their fault, then let's help them and let's find a solution to that problem. And it doesn't matter whether they are living in our house or whether they're living in a country halfway around the world. It's still our problem.
Yes.
And we have to take responsibility for that. So thank you for highlighting that, and what you're doing is incredible. And hopefully we can introduce you to other people who are also passionate about education, and see what collaborations can come out of that.
That would be so awesome. But I can see you coming into the Khalsa school and certainly talking to the students.
That would be amazing. Yeah, for sure. And when you see young people doing amazing things, I just saw a TED talk. I think I put it on the platform. Can't remember the guy's name now. And as a result of his brother, who at the age of 11 had been given a week to live, but carried on and he basically lived his week as though, how can I help other people? That's how I'm going to live my last week on this earth. But they kept telling him, you've got a week, then you've got another week, then you've got another week. Oh, actually, maybe another week. And he had another 3 years in reality. And because he had 3 years, he's raised millions and millions of pounds for other people with the same illness that he had. And it's like, well, if we all had that attitude, you only had 1 week to go. What could we create? What could we do?
Imagine.
And life gets in the way, but we've only got one life. So we have to live it as though we've only got 1 week left.
Yes.
And then see what we can create. That's been awesome. A little part of me doesn't want to stop, but I'm looking at the time and I think we might be coming up to the end. One thing I need to say to you, because of your clarity of thinking, have you come across the Jamie Smart book, Clarity?
No.
So one of our members, Rob Morgan, has kind of based his whole business around this simple book, which is simple in its clarity. And it is about helping people to see that space amongst all the noise. And it's a fascinating book, but I think you're living it already, which is lovely. So you'll read it and go, yeah, I know that. Yeah, it's interesting. But have a chat with Rob, or listen to his podcast as well, because he is fascinated by the whole concept of, life shouldn't be complicated. and you should be able to get the wood from the trees, and you should be able to see the path forward. But sometimes, as you say, it's like, take that moment, go have a nap, go and do what you need to do, and then you have the little epiphany that was waiting there all along to get through, but you had to do something in order for it to appear. So when you get confused and when you get stressed, what's the sort of thing that you do to kind of go, hang on, I'm just going to back off a bit and see how I can view this in a different way?
Sometimes I go and have a little chat to myself in the mirror.
Ah, okay.
Look at my facial expressions of the sometimes I find myself doing this lot. Yeah. And I go into the mirror and it's like, oh my heavens,
Yes, don't get lines.
But you know what? I have the most amazing husband who is my best friend in, I know it sounds really corny, but he is, we can talk. Sometimes, okay, I think I may have shared this with you before, but when I have something that I'm really upset about, not clear about, and I need to talk it through with Mike, my husband, then we have a bath. Okay. Because you are facing each other, covered in bubbles, but you're facing each other naked. And if you have something contemptuous to say, or if you know that he's gonna sort of give you a little bit of reality that you're not gonna like, there is no dignified way of storming out of a bathtub naked when you're walking down the corridor looking like a wet chicken. So that helps. But do you know what? Talk. So if there is something that is eating you up, go down your phone book. There is always somebody there. Whether it's your mum, whether it's your nearest and dearest, whether it's your best friend, whether it's I don't know, just somebody that you haven't spoken to for 6 months. There is always somebody there that you will be able to say, I'm having a real shitty day.
Yeah.
Why is that, dear? Because
it all comes out. It all comes out. I think there's what was the word? Horses for courses, isn't there? So there is a friend out there that knows this situation, and you can go, oh, she'll understand, or he'll understand. And one of our members, Ben Abdi Collins, is known on LinkedIn as the listening guy. And due to the universe, he quite often rings me when I don't know I need him, but I do need him. And what happens is that he'll go, and so tell me, how's Jill? And then he goes, now, how are you really?
I'm so sorry about this. I have to open the door.
That's all right.
The gardener. Yeah, do you want to come in?
Oh, it's his life, folks.
I'm so sorry. I'm actually in my boss's house, and he's popped out, and he asked me if the gardener calls round, can you let him in?
Oh, good timing. Well, we should have stopped earlier, shouldn't we? We carried on for another 5 minutes, but anyway, so basically, horses for courses. There's always somebody around that is prepared to listen, and sometimes that's all you need them to do, isn't it? Is just to nod and smile and go,
yes,
I know, that's terrible, and then so sometimes, you'll work it out in your head anyway. Another good exercise, just if you want to borrow somebody, is to have someone sit opposite you and you put a timer on for 5 minutes and you talk to them about your problem. They are not allowed to nod, shake their head, smile, agree, disagree, say a word. They just sit there and you talk 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 about this problem, and you go through it and you go through it. And as you're talking, because it's 5 minutes and you have to keep talking, you're not allowed to stop. The timer hasn't gone off, so you've got to keep on talking. What happens is you talk yourself into the solution that you kind of is in there anyway, and it hasn't come out.
I love that.
It's clever, isn't it?
I am so using that.
And at the end of it, you're like, okay, I didn't need you at all. I know what I'm doing now. It's fine. Thank you very much for just sitting there and being there. But I'm not sure if it works online, but it definitely worked face to face. And I did it with this person who was a stranger. Because it was an activity we had to do in a personal development program, and it was like, I like that. I'm pocketing that one for later. It was good.
Wow.
So Maria, wonderful Maria. We've had a lovely conversation. I know so much more about you now. I love this misfit, this goofy kid. That's given me a whole other mental image of you now. So this is good. I like it. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, I mean, the day job being health and safety.
Health and safety.
In a fun way. Woohoo. For sure. I mean, there's everybody who has a business, who has premises. You know, it's a droll of a subject that we'll kind of roll our eyes at. But if you're going to have to do it, then do it with someone like Maria, who can actually make it a fun and interesting exercise. How's the best way to get hold of you, my darling?
Oh, crikey. So by phone. What is it? 07942 720 810. Cool. Google risk reports. So Maria at riskreports.org.uk is my email.
Are you on LinkedIn as well? If we look,
I'm on LinkedIn. Yes, Maria Azcona.
Azcona.
Yes, yes.
And of course, if you want to meet Maria, we have our monthly meetings with Collaboration Global, and that's where you'll find her live, in person, online.
Yes.
So if you go to collaborationglobal.org, you can find on the front page how to book a meeting. Or if you're an Eventbrite person, go to Eventbrite and search Collaboration Global, and you'll find all of our meetings there. We're always on the last Tuesday of the month, UK time, 3 p.m. till 5 p.m. We have a laugh, we talk personal development, we talk business development, and get to meet some pretty cool people like Maria. Thank you so much for being here today, Maria. It's been
Thank you.
Talking to you and learning so much about you, your family, your outlook on life, and the fact that you've joined the Collaboration Global community.
I'm loving it.
Cheers. Thank you for coming, my darling.
Thank you.